Is anybody from staff on right now?
I am covering for Greg.
Hi. Yeah, so just so you know, the link that was sent out today is actually, it says that the link is being used by design review and wait for your host to start. So I think everyone here probably joined using the agenda, the link on the agenda. So I don't know if there's a way to resend that link, but I know Commissioner Farsan is having a hard time joining, and I'm guessing maybe other commissioners are too. Or if you can just let that link open now. It says it's being used by design review, and it's the host will let you in when the meeting is ready to start.
Okay, I will do that right now.
Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Hey, good evening, Anna.
Hey, Gary.
Hello.
So you ready to chair, Stephen?
Is that tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm sure I'll I would gladly take after action personal direct message recommendations if you have any.
It'll do great.
Mhm.
Commissioner Sturm won't be making tonight's meeting, and we did not get a response for Commissioner Mason. I believe we have quorum.
All right. 7:01. So
Sorry about that.
let's just wait maybe another minute for Greg, and if not, you haven't heard from him, right?
Did not.
Okay. All right. That's long enough. That's a meeting. All right. How about you? We're already live, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I'd like a roll call vote, please. Let's see. Commissioner Sturm, you said, is not going to be here. Commissioner Mason is not here. Commissioner Heising.
Present.
Commissioner Farsan.
Present.
Vice Chair Radnich.
Present.
And Chair Labange, I'm here, present. Before I go to the adoption agenda, I just would like to recognize Vice Chair Radnich for her successful year as chair, and thank you and congratulations, and we all appreciate it. And
Thank you.
so congrats. And maybe we'll just open the roll call vote up again for Commissioner Sturm.
Thank you. Sorry, I think the link I was sent was for the DRC. So it took me a second. Okay, thanks. I'm here.
Yeah, we did hear that before. So I don't know if it's gonna be sent out to anyone in the community, but hopefully that's going to be rectified. All right, so next thing is adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, let's do roll call vote. Commissioner Sturm.
Right when she was drinking.
Here.
Commissioner Heising.
Aye.
Commissioner Farsan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich.
Aye.
And Commissioner Chair Labange. Aye. Okay. Next, public comments. If we have any public comments tonight that are not on the agenda. Nancy, do you have any that you see?
There are no attendees.
Okay. I guess we won't have any comments then. All right. Consent calendar. Can I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Second. All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Sturm,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Farson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange, aye. Okay. And we have no public hearings, so new public hearing, item 7A, ZT 02022, City of Lafayette applicant, project planner, Stephen, am I saying this right? Goetz, is that correct?
It's Getz.
Getz, all right. My apologies. Why don't you go ahead and start your presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Stephen Getz. I'm project planner for these next two applications that are subject of public hearings this evening. These items are a subset of something that the commission reviewed last October, part of a package of various amendments that were being made to guidelines and ordinances that the city had to help implement the Downtown Creeks Plan, which the city adopted in 2017. When we took the Planning Commission's recommendations to the City Council, we received some public comments at the council's November 28th public hearing, advising us that the amendments to the flood damage prevention ordinance were potentially inconsistent with the Housing Crisis Act of 2018. And that legislation restricts the ability of cities and counties to change their ordinances that could, in a way that could reflect or reduce the potential capacity of residential parcels, the density of residential parcels. And so receiving those two comments, we met with the city attorney, sharpened our pencils, and looked at both the, we started with the flood damage prevention ordinance. And after we reviewed the flood damage prevention ordinance, it actually changed the definition of the elements of the project that were described in the addendum relative to its description of the proposed changes to the flood damage prevention ordinance. So we needed to amend the addendum that you approved last October to have a more accurate project description that was more consistent with the flood damage prevention ordinance that you'll address as the next item on your public hearing or on today's agenda. And so dealing with application ZT02-22, which is the city initiated addendum to the downtown specific plan final environmental impact report. You have attached to the staff report a red line strikeout version of the addendum. So you can see where we changed the project description elements in the addendum. Briefly stated, those changes and descriptions are limited to about 4 areas. One is in Article 2, which describes what parcels are affected by the ordinance changes. The prior ordinance applied the setback provisions to parcels outside special flood hazard areas. Under the Housing Crisis Act, that would mean applying creek setback provisions to parcels that currently are not subject to creek setback provisions. That is something that is not allowed by the Housing Crisis Act. And so we took out the language that expanded the ordinance beyond special flood hazard areas. It still includes all the parcels within the downtown that are along creeks, because all those parcels that are downtown along creeks are in special flood hazard areas. So that outcome, we're still able to apply setback provisions throughout the Downtown Creeks plan and help achieve the vision of the Downtown Creeks plan. The other element that was changed was Article 3. Your our initial amendments added some additional requirements on stormwater prevention to parcels under 1 acre, which currently do not have any requirements for stormwater runoff. So we took out that part of the ordinance, and we changed the description of the project to reflect that. Article 5, the major change there is the ordinance that you reviewed in September expanded the creek setback requirements to locations out of the special flood hazard areas. And so and it did that by having a different definition for creeks and structures. And so we are no longer able to do that. We went back to actually using the existing definition for structures that are affected by creek setbacks, rather than proposing a new definition for structures that would be used in Article 5. And then also related to Article 5 was a change that our city attorney advised us to do just to be more accurate. Article 5 lists a series of conditions that could be imposed for creek setback exemptions. We really are limited in establishing or adding conditions to exemptions by a nexus. We can only add conditions when there is a nexus for that condition, and the language in the ordinance used imposed, the word impose rather than consider. We took out the language that said impose and just said that additional conditions could be considered, and in that consideration the city engineer could determine whether or not an exemption existed. So that basically describes the changes in the project description. They're reflected in the addendum that's before you today. You have a ordinance 2023-03, which is a recommendation to the city council to approve and adopt ZT02-22, which is the addendum to the Downtown Specific Plan Final Environmental Impact Report. And so we're requesting that the commission, if you have any questions, we can address those. If not, we can proceed with a public hearing, consider any comments you get at the public hearing, and then consider adopting the resolution before you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have clarifying questions? And I see a hand from Vice Chair Radnich. So to you. Mute.
I also know Commissioner Farzan's, excuse me, and the Commissioner Farzan's hand is also up. When I was chair, I didn't like being corrected to the order, but I do want to just throw that out there. If it was a clarifying, happy to let you go first. Okay. Mr. Getz, thank you for the presentation. I guess I didn't quite understand or follow, if you wouldn't mind restating, why now did the city go back and look at this additional language? It seems like substantial item maybe that was missed the first time. So why, I guess if you could just help us understand, why wasn't it included originally, and why is it included now?
We thought we had addressed this item initially. We were aware of the Housing Crisis Act, and we made a number of changes to the ordinance to reflect that.
Mm-hmm.
The public comments that we received identified areas that we did not flag before.
Oh, to make more robust. Okay, I understand that now. Thank you.
Commissioner Farzan.
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Getz, you implied this, but I just want to confirm. All of these changes and recommendations were with the advice of council, correct? The city attorney?
Oh, yes. And they also were reviewed by the City Creeks Committee, and they're on board with the changes.
Yeah, that I assumed. I just wanted to make sure. So we did work with our city attorney to make sure the language passes muster, so to speak, here.
Definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? I do, if no one else does. Okay, Mr. Getz, my question is, if in the future, if a flood map is changed and something becomes a special flood zone by the fact that the map says it is now, is it correct to assume that that nexus will allow for that development to be reduced? Yeah, I'm not trying to make the development reduced, but by the fact that there's a bigger setback, they couldn't develop as much. Will that be able to proceed forward like one would expect if it weren't for the Housing Crisis Act?
Well, the definitions now refer to a specific map that the city will maintain that describes the special flood hazard areas. Those areas are determined by the federal government. So as the federal government changes those areas, it will automatically be reflected in the city map. So it's not an action that the city council controls. It's an action that's takes place at the federal level, and we would comply by virtue of the federal government's decisions on special flood hazard areas.
Okay, so it won't impact that ability to, I think, yet, okay.
We will be able to cover additional special flood hazard areas as those areas change.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. All right, I think those are all the clarifying questions. So now, sorry, Commissioner Sturm.
Your question made me think. So because those special flood hazard maps are coming from the federal government, that supersedes like California's like Housing Crisis Act law, I guess. So I was just thinking, like when Chair LaBonge asked that question, I was thinking if, I guess mainly fire and flood hazard zones are changing as the climate's changing, and I was wondering how that interplays with the Housing Crisis Act. But I think I understand what happens with the special flood zone. Is are we waiting for the state government to figure out what to do with like high fire hazard severity zones, and if those start to change and impact the potential development of parcels?
I can't speak to the fire hazard issue. Maybe, I don't know if Nancy might be able to address that question.
Can you repeat the question again?
It's okay. I'll email Greg. It's not pertinent to this item.
Okay.
I just started thinking. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No, I have received no public comments on this item as of just before the meeting started.
Okay, and then I might not be looking at this correctly. I'm not able to tell if we have any other guests watching besides the 7 of us. So are there any public comments right now?
There are 2 attendees, but if they would like to make any comments, please use the raise hand function and I will promote you to panelists.
I've got to figure that one out. Okay.
They have not raised their hands.
Okay. All right, we will now close the public comments, bring it back to the commission for discussion. Any commissioners have any items they want to discuss on this? Commissioner Heising.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't have any questions, just more of a comment. I wasn't attending the prior meetings, but I did read the comments from the 2 commenters, and it appears to me that these amendments, these changes, address the comments from those commenters, and as so not to preclude houses or lots from being able to be developed for future housing. So I'll just leave it at that for my comments, and I'd be happy to make a motion if there's no further comments or after any other comments.
Anyone else? All right, back to you, Commissioner Heising.
Okay, so I'll move we adopt resolution 2023-3, forwarding a recommendation to the city council to approve and adopt ZT02-22 addendum to the Downtown Specific Plan Final Environmental Impact Report.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Sturm,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Farsan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange, I'm also an aye. Passes. All right. I don't think there's an appeal period for this. I don't believe. Either way, let's
It's,
go on to what?
I was just gonna say, it's just a recommendation to the city council.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go on to 7B then. If you want to go ahead, Mr. Getz.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is application number ZT01-22. City of Lafayette is the applicant. It's a city initiated citywide zoning text amendment to amend chapter 6-18 of the Lafayette Municipal Code, updating the flood damage prevention ordinance. Because the Planning Commission has already recommended approval of the addendum, we now have environmental clearance to make the change to the ordinance. The changes to the ordinance are basically the changes that I described in the addendum are reflected in the ordinance. Probably the only thing that more specific that we didn't cover in my description of the changes in the addendum were the definitions. The definition section in Article 1, you can see some additional, attached to your staff report is the red line strikeout version, where you can see how where changes that we made since your October meeting are in shaded text. And so in that shaded text where we have made changes, it's indicated in boldface font. And so you can look at the definition section and see where there's a number of definitions that have been changed to be objective. Also, we want to make sure our terminology is correct. The existing ordinance refers to creek channels, and that is what we look for when we apply setback provisions. And so we made sure that all the definitions in the ordinance that relate to a channel are consistent with one another. And so and that they also refer to the map that the city will be maintaining that will be describing what we mean by creeks. And we also made some changes to the definition of structure to make it more objective. And that's really the only additional change that I wanted to highlight beyond the changes I already described when we were reviewing the addendum on how the ordinance changed since you last reviewed it in October. So you have attached before you a resolution number 2023-04, which is a recommendation of approval to the City Council to amend ZT 01-22, Chapter 6-18 of Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance. So I'm available to address any clarifying questions you have. If there aren't any, you can go ahead and open the public hearing, accept public comment, consider if there's any changes you want to make to the ordinance after that public comment, and then address the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Getz. Are planning commissioners, any clarifying questions for Mr. Getz? Okay, Commissioner Heising.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Getz. one of the changes I noticed, it's just a clarifying question for my benefit and maybe those for the public who watch this meeting. Page 5 of 22 of the attachment A. I see that staff added invasive plants, and third item down is arundo. That's that giant reed. It looks like bamboo that kind of plagues our creeks. And this may not be germane to this item, but can a resident, I don't live on a creek, but there's a creek near my house that I see a lot of this invasive species in. Can a resident who owns property that houses a creek, can they go in to the creek and remove invasive species? Or is there some sort of permit? Because usually when you do any work in a creek, you need to get a permit from Fish and Game, like a 1601 or what have you, if you're doing any
Yes.
kind of improvements. But to remove an invasive species, do you still need to get the permit from Fish and Game, or can a resident just do that?
You don't need a permit, but the Department of Fish and Wildlife recommends that you call them
Let them know what
and
you're
let them
doing.
know what you want to do. And in that call, they'll tell you whether or not you need a permit after you describe your action. So at a minimum, you're advised to call the state, and they have a pretty user-friendly website too, where you can get this information. And this is something that you needed to do before. It's not that process isn't affected by this
By this action.
by this ordinance change. Correct.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, I didn't think it was really applicable, but it was a question that just came to mind, and
Mhm.
thanks for answering it. That's all I had, Chair LeBlanc.
Any other commissioners' questions? All right, seeing none. Nancy, do we have any public comment? People in the public who want to make a comment?
Anyone would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. Jeff Gilman has his hand raised, and I'm going to promote him.
Mr. Gilman, if you want to take yourself off mute, there you go.
There we go.
Hi.
Yes.
Good evening.
Hi, commissioners. I just wanted to address the question that Commissioner Heising had about Arundo. So one of the members of the Creeks Committee, Ron Huft, has been trying to work with private homeowners on removing Arundo. So he would be a good source to contact. The city's work on that has been on public property, and they've been working with the Walnut Creek Watershed Council, has secured funding. The funding comes from mitigation funding from various projects in the Walnut Creek watershed, but the city's work has been limited to public property. But most of the patches that are remaining of Arundo are on private property, and so it would be the private homeowner's responsibility to take care of that. So again, contact Ron Huft for more information. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Nancy, do we have anyone else from the public who wish to make a comment?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, we will now close the public comment period, bring it back to commission for consideration. Any commissioners have any discussion points they want to discuss on this? I see Vice Chair Radnich. Suzanne?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a typo edit. Sorry, page 5 of 22. Tell me when you're there, Mr. Getz.
Okay. I'm there.
Okay, so the paragraph in gray background with the red text, just double check the last sentence where there's the one strikeout part where received required permits and where that's cut out.
Yes,
Just recheck the overall wording of that sentence. Just so that it says clearly what you're intending. Right now, it doesn't make sense.
yes, the word have should be.
Okay,
uh,
so just something to note on your end, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? All right, seeing none, if anyone would like to make a motion, now is a good time. Commissioner Heising,
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I'll move we adopt resolution 2023-4, forwarding a recommendation to approval to the city council to amend ZT01-22. Do I need to read all this? Chapter 618, flood damage prevention of the Lafayette Municipal Code, which is contingent upon the adoption of ZT02-22, the addendum that we just adopted the resolution for, to the downtown specific plan, final environmental impact report, with the edit that Vice Chair Radnich just mentioned.
thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we will do a roll call vote now. Commissioner Sturm,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Farson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange, aye. Thank you, Mr. Getz. Appreciate your time on all of this tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is other business. Nancy, do we have any other business?
There are none.
All right. You guys are making my first night pretty easy. I like this. Commissioner's report? Any?
I have about 2 hours worth.
I haven't recognized you.
I'm kidding.
I don't have a report, but I have maybe a friendly suggestion. And just have a friendly suggestion. I like on the staff report for item 7B, there was a link to the October 17th staff report. Personally, my computer would not load that link. I think that was just user error on my end, but maybe when, I do also like that the addendum and the strike through are included as attachments. If there'd be a way to like bookmark these PDFs so that it takes you, like when you click on attachment A, it takes you to attachment A or to attachment B, because I think for members of the public as well, it's only 2 attachments, but sometimes when it's like 6 attachments, 7 attachments, I feel information can easily get missed. So if that's just maybe something that could happen down the road, that would be great.
I mentioned it to staff the next meeting.
Just so you guys know, I did kind of send an email with a few, and I'll just tell you what I did because it was very similar, and that was one of them, of like 5 things I thought we should do for electronically making it easier. Dropbox seemed to not be working, but Kyle fixed that. I use that every time. I don't know if you guys do, but it makes it much quicker to get the whole package in. I also asked them to change the naming and his answer was he would bring it to the meeting. So it's the same answer that Nancy just said. Naming conventions on the downloaded files should be such that when you sort by name, it goes like you put the number 1 first if you want it to be the agenda so that it sorts correctly. These are dumb things, but they make it so much easier. So it's like, just do it and it'll make it easier. So the agenda would be item number 1, and then all the item numbers would be their actual item numbers. So that's pretty simple. I also asked, and if you guys don't like this idea, please speak up. I also asked that the plan sets be attached to the item, and that would fall under the bookmark thing. So if you have something on a building plan set, we'll put the agenda and then put the plan set as part of that PDF and have that bookmarked. And the follow-up is what you just said, Vice Chair Radnich, which was if we have all these other attachments, just bookmark those so that we can just click on that and jump to them right away. So and then I also noticed our planning commission page for tonight's meeting showed we had nothing on it. So for about 2 seconds on Friday, I thought our planning commission was canceled. Then I went to the homepage. So if you guys have any other ones or don't like those, and my only ask, and Nancy, so you hear this as well, is hopefully none of these are, we shouldn't spend 2 hours to save 10 minutes. Hopefully they're not big time asks, and if they are, to just push back to us to give us some feedback on that. But Kyle should have that whole list. I emailed it to Greg and to Kyle. Okay. Any other planning directors? I'm sorry, Commissioner Sturm.
I was just gonna add to that I don't use the Dropbox. I just go off the agenda, but because when I go to the Dropbox, I was just trying to log in quickly, but it wasn't working. But it seems to have everything. Like, I don't want to search through all the files to figure out what I'm supposed to be looking at. So if things can fall off of there, I don't know if I think that's what everyone's seeing, but
yeah, some of it depends what, and I will just say, I've seen it when it's done well, it's just the file and they remove the old stuff. When it's not being maintained well, then there's a lot of random in there, like old meetings. But I have seen it done where each time it's just the meeting that we're doing. And depending on your, whatever tool you use, I use this specific thing called Notify, I think, but it doesn't matter. But it connects to Dropbox, and then and I'm able to point it to the right place. And then when I hit it, I just hit download, and it just downloads all of them on one push of the button. Otherwise, I have to go to the city's website and download each, thing, and they're usually not named correctly, or so the sort gets off. So that's just my feedback on what I use. But there's all of them work sort of like that. All right. Anyone else have anything? Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, just real quick, just want to thank Chair Labange for a successful first chairing of the Planning Commission. Good job, man.
Thank you. Thank you. We're not done yet, but thank you. All right. With that, Planning Director's report, Nancy, anything from that aspect?
No.
No? All right. Well, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Well done.
Thank you. Bye-bye.